around campaigning for women's vote. No women should vote in this election coming up unless there is something done to the legislation as Magistrate Kim is advocating.
That voices like ours that are not in the political trench fighting it out, voices like ours should become stronger. One of the things about the Caribbean is that we have never had one discourse. Bass will know the days of the New World and the Old World and the radical left and so on. What we had was this concourse of ideas, which I think in the early days of independence pushed us in a certain direction. We've got to move back to that point of having these multiple discourses.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracey and welcome to another show here on GLOBESPAN 24x7. This evening, we are dealing with the topic, the power and effects of social media. This show is aired on social media. It's such a big platform that persons who would not have been able to tune in on programs like these are able to do so. And joining me from Jamaica, I have freelance journalist and student, Mr. Ravin Singh. And also I've got Melissa Atwell. She is the founder of YANA, a non-for-profit organization that helps victims who are affected by violence. And Melissa is also a social media influencer. So this evening we're going to be talking about the power and effects of social media. And the focus is not just on the negatives, because of social media, we're able to connect with our family, long lost friends, and all of that. So we're going to discuss this to talk about the advantages, the disadvantages, and how we can balance social media and use it to our advantage. And also a big issue with social media is online bullying. Persons have lost their lives as a result because they don't have the mental capacity to deal with issues that are put on social media to embarrass them. So we want to discuss all of these issues, and at the end of this program, we're hoping that we can all be a bit more mindful of what we post. We can be more considerate and not look at everything as a joke, because there are people who are truly affected when we post certain things. So the whole aim is for us to be a bit more mindful, to be considerate of other people's feelings when using social media, and to maximize it to the best of our potential. So good evening to my guests. How are you all doing this evening?
Hi, good evening, Tracey. I'm fine.
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I first would like to start. Ravin, maybe you can start. Your thoughts on social media and let's view it in context of Guyana. Your overall thought on social media and how it has evolved and how Guyanese people are using it.
Well, there's so much that can be said about social media. You know, it has evolved to mean much more than what we knew it to mean a few years ago. Accessibility has played a crucial role in that. So because it's easily accessible now, it's at your fingertips. You have a high subscription rate. So for me, generally, within this context, it has become an essential part of life. You see people from all ages, ethnicities, social class, relying heavily on social media for daily activities and arguably survival.
Interesting, survival. Melissa, your thoughts on social media, and many would say you are the queen of social media in Guyana, but we'll get into that in a few. Your general thoughts on social media in Guyana's context.
Here's my thing, Tracey. For me personally, social media has both negative and positive effect, and I can witness to that. I can give testimony to that because I have done so many good via social media, and social media has helped me as it relates to me reaching out to people and doing what it is I do, doing my work. But then at the same time, there is so many negative impact on you can find on social media, the way it influences our youth. I mean, back in the days, bullying was something that was done face to face. Like, you had to bully somebody face to face, you have to say something to their face. But now it's just easy for somebody to go on social media, have a fake profile, and just start a whole rumor, say things about you that are not true, and basically just bully you via social media from a fake account. So it's kind of different, and it kind of took what we knew as bullying back in our days in school, was just tantalizing, as we might say, or troubling somebody. It kind of takes bullying to a whole other level via social media. So we will just sit behind a computer, behind a fake profile, and bully someone, not knowing the effect that what they're saying might have on that individual. So, like I said, it has both positive and negative, but it's all about how you use it. And it's about using social media responsibly. And I myself had to learn about using social media being responsible in, the things I say, the things I post, the kind of argument and the kind of issues that I engage in back and forth. Because I've had to learn this, of course, over a period of time. I myself I'm guilty of bullying people on social media, because I've done it, and I myself am a victim of bullying on of a victim of being bullied on social media as well. So I've kind of like been on both side of the fence.
Both
So I
side of
kind
the,
of know,
yeah, the spectrum.
yeah, I kind of know, like, how it affects you, and but I also know how you can make an impact, how you can do good, how you can make an impact on the life of people via social media. It's all
Yeah,
about how you choose to use your
you,
platform.
exactly. Now, I'd like for us to talk about, if we can delve in from your perspectives,
Mhm.
the disadvantages of social media. What are the disadvantages that you've witnessed of social media? We touched on cyberbullying being one, but what more have you seen that, we're not using social media responsibly? And if we can have Ravin start off, and then Melissa, you can add to it.
I think with the advent of social media, um, what some would say is that it probably has had an adverse effect on productivity. You find in workplaces, people are far more engaged on their phones, and they're far more occupied,
Mm-hmm.
with activities outside of work. So it impacts productivity to a great extent. I mean, I haven't seen any studies, so of course this is based on
Yeah, your
anecdotal
personal,
evidence,
your perspective and
right?
what you've seen. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I can say that from experience, even in the classroom, you're in class, and if you are bored, if a topic comes up and you're bored, you take out your phone, you're on social media, you're tweeting, you're on Facebook, Instagram, and these things. So definitely, I know that it has had an impact on productivity, and privacy as well. That's another major issue. When we put our information out there, we don't have control of who accesses that and who uses it to their advantage, which is of course to our disadvantage, and could be detrimental to us. So I think privacy, is another disadvantage to social media. Melissa.
Yeah. Just to add to what Ravi was saying about, it has had an effect on productivity, because I can attest to this too. In between doing tasks, sometimes I myself might be doing something, and I might stop to pick up the phone just to browse on social media. And before you know it, you're sitting there and you've wasted an hour on social media. So it kind of gives you this false sense of like connection. You kind of feel as though, oh, you're on social media and you have 5,000 friends, but in reality, how many of those people on social media are actually your friend? And I'm guessing that it's less than 10, probably like 10-15% of them people are people that you actually know, but these are just people that you connect with via social media, or you might scroll their posts, or you might engage in a back and forth post back and forth. So I think it kind of makes you feel self-conscious about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We scroll Instagram and we see all these models and we see all these pretty girls because they're using all the filter and they have the long hair and everything, and it kind of make you self-conscious about yourself. Oh, why can't I look like her? Her stomach is flat, and then you gone and she's advertising some tea or something that she's drinking to make her stomach flat, and then you're there, it gives it's kind of like, you have to be very, very careful with social media, and you have to be very, very careful with what you allow your kids or your children to have access to via social media. It's
Yeah,
very,
that's
very important. Um, as it relates, because we as parents, we can't control, like we gave her, when they're 13 or 14, we give them a phone, and we don't always have control of what they're able to access via the internet
yeah.
or via social media. We don't have control of that all the time. So I think it's, you need to be very, very, you need to educate your kids a lot about social media, about bullying, about the things that can happen, about putting out the information out there, how it can be used against them, and all these things. So like I said, just adding to what Ravi says, another thing, it's it's a convenient way to connect with your friends and your family and your loved one.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
the
easiest thing to
advantage.
do. Go on social media and hit up a friend or call them, video call them, because they have introduced everything. You can video call now, like it's me and you, like basically, like now, like
Yeah.
you Ralph is in Jamaica, I'm in New York, you there, and we're all chatting, we're having a conversation about social media, but on this one platform, and we're here communicating with each other. So I mean, at least that's one of the positive things about social media. But I think the question should be now: how do we monitor, and how do we control how we use social media, and can we do that at this point in time with the way
That's what
social
I want
media
to ask
went
Melissa
at the way that
because,
it is? Can
yeah,
we actually control social media now? I see they had a whole thing about Instagram. They had a whole back and forth about Instagram turning off people likes, celebrity likes, and these things, and everybody had a thing, like, who was against it and who was against it. I don't know
yeah.
if it was a case, if they were just trying to see something on.
They were just testing it because they're saying that everything is now based on likes.
Mhm.
As Chronic said, you do it for the love, not the likes. But then the situation was everyone was doing it for the likes, and some of the jargon that we use or the lingo that we use, we're doing it for the gram, we're doing it for Facebook and all of that. So they wanted to turn that off to just say, listen, this is not as important. But celebrities and everyone, they were totally against it. And I want to get to that now, where Melissa, when you started off on social media, it was not in the most positive light. It was a lot of back and forth and a lot of negativity. How were you able to transition? And it's a process too. You're still transitioning to where you use social media to impact people's lives in a positive way. How were you able to do that? And as I said, it's something that you're still working on.
Tracy, I think it eventually came from um, personal experience with people that I have had um, back and forth, or you might call it social media beef on social media with. It comes from personal experience, because what I've learned is that I've learned that we see, like I try to tell people all the time, when they see I make a post on social media, or I'm engaging people on social media, what that is not me per se. That is a personality. Like Melly Mel is a personality, and Tracy, you might know this. Melissa is a totally different person from
Yeah.
Melly Mel. Melly Mel is a personality, is a social media personality. She's a social media influencer, and it's something that people know. People come to my joke. We will talk about something. We crack a joke. We will skip. We'd laugh back and forth, and stuff like that. But what I had to do after meeting, I'm going to use one example. Like, after meeting one person that I was in this whole back and forth beef with, probably the whole Lola thing and everything, and I sat down and I had a personal conversation with that young lady. I then saw her not as this social media person that she was trying to portray, or everybody was trying to say that, oh, she's this person or she's that. Because I then had a personal conversation with her. I then learned about her. I learned about her struggles. I learned about, how she went about, and her story. I mean, it's not my story to tell; it's hers to tell.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can share it with you guys, but I don't think she's ever talked about her struggles and what she went through, how she became a makeup artist, what she did, how she got to that point, and how she got to that point with she wasn't fortunate enough to have an high school finish high school or went to university or anything like that, but how she hustled from that person that she was from the ghetto, just hustle and come back to,
You saw
it
her
was
as a real
different.
person. You were dealing with a real
Exactly. It
person.
showed me that I was actually dealing with a real person, and she felt as though, and I had hurt her feelings because she felt as though like I was attacking her, and she was just trying to get by in life and just trying to make it. And here I was on the other end, not knowing what she was going through, not knowing her personal struggles, and I'm just there attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking. So I kind of understand. So when everybody was asking me, how can you be friends with that person? How can after she said this about you and after she said that about you, how can you still turn around and be friends with that person? But you see, they weren't there. They didn't have the conversation. They didn't see what I see.
So
They didn't hear what I heard.
basically, in essence, what you're saying is that social media can make us, we can get so out of touch with human beings
Yeah,
and forget that we're dealing with real people, real emotion. And also,
stop.
you said that you were bullied as well on social media. So obviously, that's
I'm
going to give you perspective as well.
Tracy, I'm bullied every day on social media. You know this too. Every day somebody says something about me, whether it's on the guard, mostly comment, one is on the one when it's well it's on the critics comment, whether it's on anybody that is doing a talk show, whatever comments, and my name happened to come up, whether it's Mudwater doing a video, and there's always somebody that is there saying something negative about me. I've been called every single name in the book. Like I don't think anybody could tell me. So when people say to me, "Oh, how do you deal with this? How come you don't take on? You always smiling. You don't care." I'm like, because I am at a stage right now. I've been doing this for so many years that I'm at this stage like nothing bothers me. Like I'm truly like nothing that people say about on social media bothers me anymore because after a while you get a and after a while you have your own video, you get tired of the back and forth. Everybody that follows me on social media that was following me early, they know very well that I'm capable enough of answering somebody and that I'm capable enough of being cruel and being savage on social media. But that's not the person that I want to be. That's not the person I want to portray to be. That's not the person I want these young girls that are growing up want to be. I was just talking with this girl from another foundation the other day, and I was just telling her about launching a campaign against bullying in school because I was watching the video of these young teenagers that are going around to different high schools right now and basically bullying kids and beating them up and stuff like that. So I was telling them like maybe you need to go into school and talk to these kids. You need to let these kids know because I was a bully in school myself. I was known in school for being one of the mean girls. I was the one of the popular girl, and I was mean. I was so mean to like all the children that were coming to school. And if they weren't wearing the latest name brand boots, we would laugh at their shoes. We would laugh at them because they didn't get the proper pencil and they didn't get the proper pen or nothing. And I wish now, like now that I'm where I am at this position in my life, I wish now that I could go back and be kind to those people because I hear so many people's story daily. I read so many stories about so many young people. You don't know what is like. They're struggling to make it to school. The parents are struggling to.
Yeah.
Some of them come. They didn't have a proper meal when they come to school. So I wish that I could go back now and to everybody that I was so mean to back in high school because I was the popular girl and I was the it girl. I wish I could go back now and be kind to them and be. But it's all in the past or whatever, but I'm just saying like I think we need to educate these kids about bullying and maybe like give them a little bit insight as to what actually happens sometimes like the child sitting next to him might just not had breakfast before he come to school this morning. He wouldn't say anything because of course of peer pressure in his school or
Compassion.
any kind of thing. But we need to start teaching these kids that they need to be compassionate and they need to start being kind and start
Yeah.
sharing and start they need to start.
I wanna true. I want to
Mhm.
bring Ravin in now for him to add to in this context about how we can transition into making social media more positive, and sort of eliminating as much as possible cyberbullying or online bullying. Your thoughts on that?
So firstly, I think Melissa touched on something important, which is issues surrounding the reality that we see, right? And I think social media has largely changed that. And so what we see now as reality is not necessarily the life that we live, but rather what is portrayed on social media. So we subscribe to certain ideologies simply because it's popular, or it's trending, or it gets us the likes, and it advances us, and we look good for the gram, we look good on Facebook, and these things, so that has largely affected, how we interact with people, on a personal level. So we merely see people now not necessarily as within a personal capacity, but we see them as mere agents of social media,
Yeah. Powerful.
Secondly, I think you touched on regulation, and how do we, regulate the space. The unfortunate thing, and of course, this is a personal belief, right? At this point in time, Facebook is not a fully regulated space, and I don't think, well, not only Facebook, social media in general,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to get to that point where it's going to be entirely regulated. A few days ago, I was looking at an interview with Zuckerberg, and he was speaking to a congresswoman in the US, Cortez, and so she was asking him about certain barriers, and certain restrictions that they ought to have on social media to prevent things like hate speech and all these things. And he outrightly said that, these things are not encouraged, but they're facilitated, on social media. And that was very telling.
It
The owner of
is.
these major companies, the owner of social media is telling you that the space is unregulated and you're free to put whatever content. And in that comes the issue of fake news. So you have the proliferation of fake news, dominating social media space, and this has had a rippling effect, not just in the political space, but in the social space as well. And all of these, filters down to the smaller problems like, bullying and all these things. So for me, at this point in time, it has to do with a personal choice. It sounds, what? It probably sounds unattainable, unachievable, but I don't think that there is a mechanism in place which will allow for that type of censorship that is required on such a large scale. So I think personally it comes back to personal choice of how you use social media, and what you use it for, not just using it. Because I was looking at the topic, and it says the power and effects of social media, right? And immediately I smiled when I saw it, because for me there's no real power in social media. Social media is just a mechanism, or that facilitates interaction. The real power lies in the people,
And
and
people.
how they use social media as a tool, and what they use it for. So that's where the real power is. And for me, it comes back to the people and how responsible they are, or how responsible they ought to be when utilizing these tools.
But I
And
noticed you said something, Rap. You were
you
saying something?
touched on it, Melissa.
No, Trace. Uh,
Okay,
okay,
make
go
the
ahead. Go
point.
ahead. No,
No, go ahead. You
I
wanted to
was
add.
gonna say something. Rafi touched on something where he said in terms of Zuckerberg saying that there wasn't any mechanism in place right now that could kind of censor what is being placed on social media and stuff like that. But Rafi, what I have noticed with Facebook in
Mhm.
particular right is that, I mean, a few years ago you were allowed to like post like nude pictures and all these things on Facebook,
Mhm.
on social media, and it would be there for days and everything and stuff. But what I realize now is that certain posts you can't make, and certain, because
Mhm.
it's been flagged, because even shared a video where these
Mhm.
school kids, and I didn't realize that it was something that I couldn't even share, because I shared a video a few days ago with these school children fighting and stuff, and within an hour, 2 hours, a message was sent to me and saying that it goes against the policy of what, it's allowed on social media and stuff like that, and it's going to and they had to remove it. So I think in terms of like, I think they're
Yeah, man.
trying. I think
They
They
they're
are
are making
trying.
trying,
progress,
yes,
Have
but
They
then
are making
But then
progress, and he
this
but
admitted.
it's
is
not
years
fully up.
though. This is
Mm.
years that finally they've decided that we need to put mechanisms in place to ensure that these things are not up for a while. And I think it came from the last US elections where we had the proliferation of fake news and how it impacted the US election, basically
Yes.
Facebook. And so
Yes.
that's where they had to tighten up, and then Congress put in pressure on them for them to tighten up. So it wasn't, and I don't think it was, something that they initiated. I think it was because of pressure, but nevertheless,
But
it's a
nevertheless, it's
welcome.
still there. It's some form of censorship. It's some form of that is not allowing. So I can no longer go on social media and just post somebody picture and cuss them out now, because as long as like two or three friends or four-person report
Yeah.
the post or so, it automatically they send you a message and they remove it. They even sometimes ban you from social media. Sometimes a whole month, a week, 24 hours, 48 hours. Like they put certain
They
stipulation in
should.
place. Yeah, well, as they should. Yeah.
And I agree with that. What I was saying was, in terms of it being entirely regulated, it's not. So they have made progress,
No,
which he admitted to. So they have made some amount of progress in terms of removing content that uh, some may find offensive. But for instance, I can say offhand now, even the public policy, I think it's the public policy manager for Facebook. I think his last name is Alan or something like that. He admitted recently that they're not going to take down content which are anti-immigration and anti-Muslim, or anti-immigration/Muslim. And he said
Mhm.
that as a Facebook policy, that doesn't constitute hate speech, right? So I mean, we can look at them making progress in areas such
it,
as
it,
flagging
it's
stuff like
kind of
nudity and those
kind of
things.
tricky. All that it's kind
Uh-huh.
of tricky. So they're just
Uh-huh.
like like you know what I said, the stricter the government, the wiser the population. So people are just going around and of how they make posts now, or how they word certain things, or how they do certain things now.
But I mean, I don't think it's that minimal, like, or minuscule, because I mean, Facebook has a responsibility. People have been bullied online and they've taken their lives. I want for us to talk about that. I personally know of about 5 or 7 cases where nude videos were leaked of persons, and they could not deal with the humiliation and they took their lives. People have lost their lives as a result of that. So can we touch on issues like that? And then I know people who've contemplated suicide as well as a result of being
Yeah,
humiliated online. And
I
I want to also make the point too. It is as if you cannot make a mistake. Like, there are all these people who are casting stones because they're perfect, and you make a mistake, which is human, but you can't make a mistake. Everyone is going to come down on you, and we take everything as a joke. I find online everything is a joke without having consideration. And Melissa, you made a point that we need to teach our kids to be kind and considerate. We ourselves need to be kind and considerate. We need to teach ourselves to be kind and considerate as well.
like you just said about people nude videos and all these things being leaked. And I know personally, I was in personal contact with a young lady whose nude was just leaked and everything, and it was shared online, and everybody was making joke about um how she was behaving in the video, and she had so much energy in this, only coming to find out, like, they share this video and they make all this joke on social media, and everybody's making a post about it and everybody's laughing about it, only to be speaking with that young lady personally. That young lady is going through such a struggle right now. She's going through depression. She's having sleepless nights, because what they don't know about that video is that that young lady was drugged, and she didn't even know that there was a video out there of her until somebody tell her that it's circulating on social media. So this young lady had no idea that is when she knew that she was drugged, because all she remember from that night is that she woke up the next morning and her keys was in her door, and she was home. She knew nothing. She could not remember anything that happened.
And I mean, well, Ravin, you could add, but but I wanted to also say, even for persons who would have willingly made certain videos, it's not something that I would advise to do. Still, like, those are personal things. Why would someone see the need to put things like that out there and not contemplate about the consequences for the person or and even themselves? So Ravin, you can add to it.
I mean, there isn't one or two specific reasons that persons would be motivated to do something of that nature. There are many reasons why persons would go about. Perhaps the most dominant one being to blackmail persons, or to get back
Yeah,
at them.
revenge.
But what I think is important in all of this, and within the context of regulation, is the cybercrime bill, which the government would have passed in the House. So I think that was a major step forward in terms of monitoring and regulating what happened within the
But
cyberspace.
now that you touch on that cybercrime bill also have a lot of flaws in it. I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Well,
good thing. It's
let
good,
Ravin
and flaws, when I
make point,
flaws,
and
it's
then you
taking
could
my
dissect the
situation
bill
with
for
the
us.
whole balance hospital thing into consideration because that was considered cyberbullying.
What was the point that you just made?
I was saying, he mentioned that they passed that passing of the passing of that Cyber Bill Act in Parliament was a good step, and yes, it was a good step. But that bill also they didn't. I didn't think that it was scrutinized properly because it have flaws in it. Because now, if anybody could go and say, "Oh, this is bullying," like for instance, I was giving an example, like in my situation with the whole Balmansing Hospital, because that is what was reported. They were being bullied by me, who was just reporting complaints from a third party. So that was the charge. That was the charge. Defamatory liable. They were being bullied.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one is a bit tricky. As a journalist, when
And
not to say that the
so
stories weren't true.
and only then, like I say, like sometimes we as individuals we don't take time like to read certain things. Like we hear this bill is being passed in Parliament and all that. But it was only then at that point in time when I was in that trouble, then I
That's
decided to
true.
actually read this bill, like to get into fine details of
It-
what exactly this bill is actually saying. Like, and I'm like, what? So you're giving me is like saying, yes, you have freedom of speech. The bill is basically saying, yes, you have freedom of speech, but then the bill still infringe upon that freedom of speech that they give to you. So it's really, 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 really tricky. So I have to like
Um,
I have so
Ravin, continue.
all
ways
right.
it,
So
either ways.
so
Like I had lawyers going back and forth through that bill, and everybody was saying, "But this section so says." But I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the legal technicalities. I was just sitting. I was lost. I was basically just trying to understand what was actually happening myself.
Go ahead.
all
Yes,
right.
Ravin.
So this is not necessarily speaking to Melissa's case. But I mean, generally speaking, I can
Yeah.
understand why Melissa is so passionate about it, and we can debate at length the specific clauses and the specifics of the bill, which is a completely different debate altogether. Um, but I think what's important is the fact that we have a bill. Yes, it probably might need fine tuning, which the opposition has called
Yeah.
for. Um, but again, and I'm going to say this from the point of view of both a journalist and a student, as a political science student. The reality is, when you have legislation, it's not going to satisfy every single citizen.
Everyone, yeah.
It's
I
yeah, it's
understand.
not.
I understand that, Rafi, but at the same time, when you're passing a bill, you need to ensure that the interpretation of that bill is clear. It need to be state. I think what it needs to state clearly. This is what this bill is saying in terms of it. So the bill is at the point where I remember when I was doing I did this thing called statutory interpretation. The bill is at the point where it can be interpreted however the judge see fit. So
Yes.
it's whichever lawyer bring forward it's about argument and who bring forward what argument. So but then it's still left up to the judge to interpret the bill how he or he
As
sees
any
fit.
bill and law.
If you
But
understand.
Which
Ravin,
again
go
I
ahead.
would say, which again I would say is the responsibility and the duty of the judiciary to interpret the laws. So you have
And
a lot of laws that can be interpreted in
all
probably
my
more than one ways. But of
that's
course,
what
it
I
comes back to the judiciary and how they interpret the laws.
But then again, that's what I'm saying. If you want to pass a bill as a cyberbullying bill, then you need to state clearly what is cyber, because you're passing a bill as a cyberbullying bill, but then you're still telling people that, oh, they have freedom of speech. When certain section of that bill infringe upon the same freedom of speech that you give to these people.
But
So
then
you
I know what you're saying, Melissa, and speaking to your issue, I think too it was we can all go and make all kinds of claims, and this is not to say that the stories that you were telling were untrue, but the persons that were telling you these stories and then you were feeding it to us, the public, you were protecting them. Were they willing to now come forward to say, yes, indeed, this personally happened to me? So these were people who were sort of invisible. So I think, that's like a whole separate issue as well. But I want to know, do you think, well, basically Melissa has said that the bill needs more work. I definitely would agree, because I think a lot of the people who are committing cyber crimes,
need
they
to
are
use
getting a slap on the wrist
it's
and like a pat on the wrist and okay, go again.
Okay, sorry. Continue, Tracy.
No, I'm saying that as you stated, and the bill does need fine tuning, because I think that the people who are committing cyber crimes, they are getting like a pat on the wrist. Oh, you get a fine, you leak it somebody's nude video, you're fined 40, 20,000 or whatever the fine is. And you get to move on with your life, but then you still have the victim who they're still suffering as a result of it. So your thoughts on that? And then speaking directly to the bill and fine tuning of it.
Who thought
Melissa,
you talk, Rabbit?
you're the passionate one about this
Very
issue, so
much
take the
passionate.
floor.
No, no, Trace. It wasn't about being passionate about the bill, but he touched on the whole cyber that we have this bill. We now have this cyberbullying bill that is passed and people are using it now. Which don't get me wrong. I'm all for cyberbullying bill in Ghana. I'm all for holding people responsible for for the things that they post on social media, how they may deal with somebody, how they may hurt somebody' feelings, or cause them emotional distress or pain, whatever it is. But then the bills also, you go, like you said, Tracy, you go to court, you release somebody nude, or you release somebody picture or anything, you go to court and you get, it's basically a slap on the wrist. It's like $20,000 and you go on bail and you keep going to court over and over again. Meanwhile, that person that you release their nude or their whatever, the private videos or whatever, that person is there suffering in silence, and there's no, they now have to take it upon themselves. You might have to take it upon them. They have to take it upon themselves to get counseling or to try and deal with all the repercussions of what you did, and it's left up to them to deal with it, and they're just, and the kids, and not only that, kind of justice system is I just feel as though that it's just made, it just there for frustrate Guyanese. Like, you'd be going to court for years upon years upon years for one single case, and the case is so long and drawn out, and people get frustrated, and after a while they just decide, hey, you know what? Me never go to court today. Who show up? And then and it's just a
I
victim
think
stop
there's
showing up
been some
because they're
improvements,
tired. You gotta leave in work to go to court. You gotta take in a day every
but
month
that
to
is
go to court
true.
year upon year, and it's frustrating. The legal system is frustrating. The Ghana legal system is frustrating.
But if we're serious about getting justice, it takes work. It's not, just fly by night if that's the case. If someone has wronged you and you're seeking justice through the judicial system, then we've got to go along with the process. But sometimes we give up too easily. Ravin, your thoughts?
I want to come back to something Melissa would have said earlier. So she would have mentioned, that freedom of speech comes with limitation, but she was speaking directly to the bill, and how much it limits freedom of expression. But naturally, everything has a limit to it. Us
Yeah.
existing in society, there exists a social contract, and so my right to extend my arm stops at where your face is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So naturally, with legislation, as long as it speaks directly to human behavior, there is going to be a limitation to it. And for me, that's why I see this piece of legislation as being useful. While it's not to say that I agree with every single clause, or I don't think that it needs tightening up. There are areas that probably needs tightening up, areas that are probably ambiguous, that could have been, better articulated, and
Yeah.
these things. But I think it will in terms of providing recourse, but not just recourse, a legal mechanism in place which act as a deterrent to persons who would want to, engage in cyber attacks and cyberbullying and anything that goes contrary to the norm within the cyberspace.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so we are what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna wrap up. And I'd just like to have your overall thoughts and what you'd say to the Guyanese populace, and the responsibility that we all hold in our hands when we use social media. So we're gonna be right back.
Support GLOBESPAN 24/7 initiatives by sponsoring our programs. Our goal is to bring all sides to the table, and with your help, this can become possible. With your support, we can shape a greater nation together. Contact sales at globespan247.com for more information, or inbox us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
GlobeSpan's professional platform is now available for rental. Create your own content, promote your business, and reach hundreds of thousands of viewers in Guyana, United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. GlobeSpan gives you the ability to interact with viewers and guests to reach the multitude. Contact sales at globespan247.com for more information.
So, welcome back. We are just about ready to wrap the program up. And if you've just joined us, I have with me freelance journalist and University of the West Indies student, Mr. Ravin Singh, and also Melissa Atwell, who's popularly known as Melly Mel, the founder of YANA, a non-for-profit organization that helps victims of violence, and also a social media influencer. We were talking about, and we are rather talking about the issue of social media, its powers and effects. And I think it was such an interesting conversation. I really want to thank the two of you so much for giving your perspective, your honest opinions on it. And I am sure that for the persons who are looking at the program, who are listening, they're more educated and, are more going to be more aware and more considerate when using social media. So, I will allow you, my panelists, to give your closing remarks on the topic on social media, its power and effect.
Well,
Ravi,
Tracy,
okay,
as I
go
said
ahead,
before,
Melissa.
huh?
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, Tracy, as I said earlier, it's all about you as an individual, how you choose to use your platform, how you choose to use social media. I, for one, have done a lot of reshuffling and rethinking and reinventing my whole social media persona and how I put information out there, the things I say, and so I think you as an individual, you have your own self, has to be responsible how you use social media, and I think you have a responsibility to call out your friends, to call out your colleagues and other people that you see that are using social media for all the negative comments and promoting racism and all this thing. I think you have a responsibility to call out your friends on it. I mean, you don't have to do it via social media or
Publicly,
publicly.
that's
But
another thing too. Everything is
yeah,
done so publicly.
you don't have to do it on social media. You don't have to say to them publicly. Like many times people come into my inbox when if they disagree with something that I post, and me and them would have a personal one-on-one conversation. So I think you have a responsibility as an individual. If you see somebody saying something that is not tasteful, or it's not not sitting well with you on social media, you can go into the inbox and say, I mean, I think you could have worded this, or you could have said this differently, or stuff like that. So just be responsible with how you use social media. That's it. Like Ravi said, they're trying to like censor, or there's no mechanism in place to protect us, we as individual, about from the information that we put out there, from the posts that we put out there. Like somebody was saying to me, like, just know that anything that you put on social media is on the internet is there forever. It's there. It's always there. So people need to keep that in mind too, that whatever it's out there, it's out there. Whatever it is that you put on social media, whatever it is you put on the internet, it remains there forever. So it's there.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, Ravin.
I have to agree with everything Melissa would have said. She summed it up nicely. Social media is here to stay. It's not going anywhere in the foreseeable future. It's evolving and expanding rapidly. You find traditional forms of media, even newspaper, for instance, Chronicle has gone digital now. They're doing videos and all these things to keep up with the trend, because it has become such an integral part of everyone's life, your daily life. So it's here to stay, and we have to accept that fact. The second thing is that it's largely unregulated, and so it comes back to what Melissa would have said earlier, which is that there has to be personal responsibility for the type of content that you put out there. Yes, there's so much that the government can do. There's so much that other agencies and bodies can do to limit the extent to which negative content is put out there. But of course, the greater burden is on the individual to ensure content that is put out there is healthy and uplifting content. And so I've had many experiences on social media. I went from, when I was at UG, I went from arguing politics back and forth, and
Yes, you're famously known for that.
yes, I would be, and sometimes I would reflect on those days, and I'd be like, what was I thinking at that time? I was largely ill-informed. Most of my opinions were not grounded in theory or anything substantial. Yes, it's just about making your voice heard, and I think in achieving that, what you also want to ensure is that you are not harming anyone, and that you're educating someone. So we have that responsibility, we have that burden on us, and there's so much we can achieve. As you mentioned earlier, there's so much we can achieve from social media. Social media has taken the poor out of poverty. It has, of course, made the rich richer. It has given rise to social movements. It has overthrown governments, and so when used in the right way, it's such a powerful tool, and so we have that responsibility to ensure that we use it in a very constructive way, and that it's to the benefit of all of us.
Perfectly said, both of you. Again, thank you so much for coming on the program, for sharing your views. Very informative, and to our viewers, I hope that you walk away a bit more informed with these various perspectives. I'd like to also thank GLOBESPAN 24/7 for giving us a platform to sit and to use social media to our advantage in a positive light, to talk about issues such as this. Again, Melissa and Ravin, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure.
It's a
All
pleasure.
right, Ravi. Good night. Nice.
All right, so everyone, thank you to our viewers for tuning in. Do enjoy the rest of your evening and week, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone living in America, and to all of our Guyanese American as well in Guyana. Happy Thanksgiving. Good night, everyone.
Good night.